to take on the extraordinary task of governing themselves. Before there was a Declaration of Independence, a Constitution, or a Bill of Rights, there were people in this room. The people who served here ultimately dreamed of what a new nation, unlike anything the world had ever seen, could be. The United States was founded on the idea that ordinary people could reject the unacceptable excesses of poor leadership, band together to demand better of their government, and create a nation that would be an example for the world. And this year, as we celebrate 250 years since America declared our independence from tyranny, I can think of no better place to speak to you as we reflect on the current state of our union. Tonight, as we watched our nation's lawmakers gather for a joint session of Congress, we did not hear the truth from our president. So let's speak plainly and honestly, and let me ask you, the American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you? As I campaigned for governor last year, I traveled to every corner of Virginia, and I heard the same pressing concern everywhere. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price. And even though the Supreme Court struck these tariffs down 4 days ago, the damage to us, the American people, has already been done. Meanwhile, the president is planning for new tariffs, another massive tax hike on you and your family. And Republicans in Congress, they remain unwilling to assert their constitutional authority to stop him. They're making your life harder. They're making your life more expensive. They're even making it more difficult to see a doctor. Rural health clinics in Virginia and across the country are already closing their doors thanks to the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, championed by the president and Republicans in Congress. And tonight, the president celebrated this law, the one threatening rural hospitals, stripping health care from millions of Americans and driving up costs in energy and housing, all while cutting food programs for hungry kids. But here in Virginia, I am working with our state legislature to lower costs and make the Commonwealth more affordable. And it's not just me. Democrats across the country are laser focused on affordability in our nation's capital and in state capitals and communities across America. In the most innovative and exceptional nation in the history of the world, Americans deserve to know that their leaders are focused on addressing the problems that keep them up at night. Problems that dictate where you live, whether you can afford to start a business or whether you have to skip a prescription in order to buy groceries. So I'll ask again, is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? We all know the answer is no. I grew up in a house of service. My mother was a nurse and my father was a career law enforcement officer. I began my career by following in my father's footsteps as a federal agent working money laundering and narcotics cases. I worked side by side with local and state police to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the law. Law enforcement officers across the country know that it is a unique responsibility to do the serious work of investigating crimes, comforting victims, and making arrests. It's about building trust, and that requires an abiding sense of duty and commitment to community. And yet, our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far-off detention centers, and they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities. After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect the United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe. But as the president spoke of his perceived successes tonight, he continues to cede economic power and technological strength to Russia, bow down to China, bow down to a Russian dictator, and make plans for war with Iran. Here's the truth. Over the last year, through DOGE, mass firings, and the appointment of deeply unserious people to our nation's most serious positions, our president has endangered the long and storied history of the United States of America being a force for good. So I'll ask again, is the president working to keep Americans safe, both at home and abroad? We all know the answer is no. In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot. So I'll ask again, is the president working for you? We all know the answer is no. But here's the special thing about America. On our 250th anniversary, we know better than any nation what is possible when ordinary citizens, like those who once dreamed right here in this room, reject the unacceptable and demand more of their government. We see it in the determination of students organizing school walkouts all across the country, whose voices are becoming so powerful that the governor of Texas seeks to silence them. We see it in the bravery of Americans in Minnesota standing up for their communities, from peacefully protesting in sub-zero temperatures to carpooling children to school, so that their immigrant parents are not ripped away from them in the parking lot. As a mother of 3 school-aged daughters, I am inspired by their bravery, but I am sickened that it is necessary. And Americans across the country are taking action. They are going to the ballot box to reject this chaos. With their votes, they are writing a new story, a more hopeful story. In November, I won my election by 15 points. And we won 13 new seats in our state legislature. because voters decided they wanted something different. Our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between, because they knew as citizens they could demand more, that they could vote for what they believe matters, and that they didn't need to be constrained by a party or political affiliation. This is happening across the country. New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill as governor in a double-digit victory. Democrats flipped state legislative seats in places like Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, and Texas. The list goes on and on. Ordinary Americans are stepping up to run in the spirit of our forefathers. They are running to demand more and to do more for their neighbors and communities. I know this story well. I first ran for office in 2018 alongside dozens of other Democrats who did the seemingly impossible, flipping 41 seats in Congress. In my case, I was the first Democrat elected in 50 years, swinging our district 17 points. Those who are stepping up now to run will win in November because Americans, you at home, know you can demand more, and that we are working to lower costs. We are working to keep our communities and our country safe, and we are working for you. In his farewell address, George Washington warned us about the possibility of, quote, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men rising to power. But he also encouraged us, all Americans, to unite in a common cause, to move this nation forward. That is our charge once more, and that is what we are seeing across the country. It is deeply American and patriotic to do so, and it is how we ensure that the state of our union remains strong, not just this year, but for the next 250 years as well, because we, the people, have the power to make change, the power to stand up for what is right, the power to demand more of our nation. May God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and may God bless the United States of America.
Evening. I'm Congresswoman Summer Lee, and I'm honored to deliver the Working Families Party response to the President's State of the Union. The Working Families Party is the political party for working people, not the bosses, not the big dollars. I'm proud to be a part of a movement that is built for and by the people. So let's start with a simple truth. What we are witnessing from our government is authoritarianism. Any response that doesn't acknowledge that truth is a disservice to Americans who deserve and need honesty right now. I listened to Donald Trump's speech tonight. While Trump and his friends profit off his presidency, he's gaslighting us. He wants to convince working families that we're better off under his regime. But we know the truth. Our country is in crisis. For millions of Americans, affordability is out of reach. Trump has driven up the unemployment rate, cutting thousands of federal jobs across the country. Everything he does is making Americans less safe at home and abroad. He's bringing us to the brink of wars in the Middle East and South America. And at home, ICE agents are hunting down human beings and cities are under siege. The FBI is raiding election offices in Georgia. Students are being disappeared for protesting tyranny and genocide in Palestine. The environmental protections we earned after a generation of advocacy are being stripped away. Educators are facing attacks on public and higher education because diversity and truth threaten corporate power. Workers are facing union busting and retaliation. And the Republican-led Congress, it's abdicated its post as a co-equal branch and yielded itself to the oligarchs in the White House. Trump bragged about his tariffs, but they were never about creating jobs. They were a tool for Trump to bully countries or companies into paying fealty to him personally, and about making working people pay the price for his tax cuts for billionaires. The courts have blocked his illegal actions, but for too many small businesses and consumers, the damage is done. He played up his tax cuts, but forgot to mention that it's $1 trillion giveaway to the wealthiest and well-connected. He talked a big game about banning stock trading, but wants to exempt himself so he can keep on cashing in. The state of the union is dire. We can't afford to believe Trump's lies, and we have to pay attention to his actions. This is not a normal time, and our response to it can't be politics as usual. Trump's speech wasn't a list of accomplishments. It was more like an obituary for the country working people built and a celebration for the billionaires who want to strip it for parts. An obituary for our right to vote, for the ability to make rent or the chance to own a home, for good jobs with the right to organize and strike and stick up for each other. Trump's policies are hurting our communities. Working people feel it every single day. We certainly feel it where I come from in Western Pennsylvania, where I was born, raised, and now represent in Congress. I know what it's like to come from a working class background, to be burdened by student debt, and to witness our communities be neglected time and again. I ran for office because I wanted to make sure the marginalized and unheard voices of my district had representation. Special interests and dark money went hard against me, and still we won. In my district, Pennsylvania's 12th, people work way harder than their paychecks and bank accounts will ever reflect. It's a place where teachers and nurses like my sister show up, even when they're exhausted. Where steel workers carry the pride of generations in their hands, and where restaurant cooks start before sunrise and don't sit down again until midnight. And where childcare workers do some of the hardest work in America and still struggle to pay the rent. We have world-class hospitals, yet people can't access the care they need. Insurance companies drive families into bankruptcy. Parents work 2 jobs and still can't afford childcare. Patients ration medicine just to make it to the end of the month. No matter how hard we work, we continue to struggle. That's the real state of our union. This is not an accident. Trump is failing all of us, but he is not failing everybody. Trump promised to lower our costs. Instead, he gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% while cutting your Medicaid and SNAP by $1.1 trillion. In the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania alone, 300,000 people are going to lose Medicaid within the next year. He promised us public safety, but we have an FBI director who's focused on flying on private jets to concerts and hockey games using our tax dollars. Trump promised accountability and transparency, but his DOJ is violating our subpoena, protecting pedophiles and burying documents that name him in the Epstein files. He said he'd make government more efficient, but now seniors can't get anybody on the phone to explain why their Social Security payments stopped. While Americans' bank accounts are being drained, Trump and his family have gained billions of dollars from foreign payments and corrupt oligarchs. And while our hearts break for children trapped in ICE detention, Palantir gets to walk away with a $1 billion contract. This is corporate greed and profiteering, and it's a moral failure. We live in the wealthiest country in the world, yet corporate profits grow and wages don't. The stock market may be helping CEOs, but it does nothing for working people's pocketbooks. The portfolios of AI moguls that see no place for you and me in their future might be growing, but not as fast as the unemployment rate for Black women that's up 20% just from last year. The concentration of wealth has created two separate Americas, one for working person and one for the wealthy. And for years, powerful men like Donald Trump and Elon Musk have used the politics of fear and division, telling us that we should blame our neighbors for our struggles. They need you to believe the problem is the immigrant or the trans kid or someone who looks differently or worships differently than you. They want you to look anywhere but at them. So whether you live in a city where the rent is too damn high or in a small town where the factory closed down, or whether you come from a community hit by gun violence, opioids, floods, or fires, working families are facing this same reality. Wages that don't keep up with costs, in a system built for corporate CEOs, and a government that is just not doing enough. This rigged system keeps squeezing the people who have it hardest, the communities with the least power, the workers with the least protection, and the families already living on the edge. But we don't have to accept that. The rich, connected, and well-protected may want us to believe this has to remain the status quo, but we can work to make things right. We've seen working people come together from the civil rights movement to the creation of labor unions to change this country for the better, despite powerful opposition. So right now, we need bold policy proposals that meet this moment. We can build an America that works for the many and not just the money. An America where you can actually afford a home, where healthcare is guaranteed, with affordable childcare and education, with paid family and medical leave, and jobs with a union standard. We can create a just and humane immigration system. And let's be clear, you can't reform oppression or hatred. You must abolish it. We can have environmental policies that put the health of our people and our planet over the profits of oil and gas executives. We can fund education instead of endless war and genocide in Palestine or Sudan or anywhere else in this world. That vision is not radical. It is the bare minimum required for a healthy democracy and for people to pursue happiness and live with dignity. Imagine what it would mean if healthcare wasn't tied to your job, and where you can see a doctor without checking your bank account first, or no parent ever rationing insulin, no family starting a GoFundMe to survive cancer. Medicare for All doesn't just save money. It saves lives. It keeps families out of bankruptcy. Imagine a national jobs program that guarantees dignified union work, rebuilding roads and bridges, caring for seniors and children, installing clean energy, building affordable housing. No more telling young people there's nothing here for you, or no more small towns hollowed out and just forgotten. A good job does more than pay the bills. It builds pride and community. Imagine childcare that doesn't swallow half your paycheck, and paid leave that allows you to heal, to bond with your newborn, or to care for a parent without risking your livelihood. When people have the basic secured, stress goes down, small businesses grow, families stay together, and democracy actually works because people aren't trapped in survival mode. When the foundation is strong, people can breathe again. We, the people, need this. We need a healthy democracy and systems that work for us. We can have this now. Don't let anybody tell you we can't afford it. We somehow find endless money for ICE, for private prisons to warehouse Black and brown people, and for bombs to be sent abroad. But we're told healthcare and childcare are too expensive. And when we begin questioning those priorities, the powerful try to divide us once more. But that old playbook is losing its grip. When Trump returned to the White House for a second time, too many institutions surrendered. But ordinary people stood up. When federal immigration agents invaded Los Angeles and Minneapolis, when they killed Keith Porter and Renee Good and Alex Preety, people didn't stand by. They stood together, protesting, documenting abuses, building mutual aid networks, demanding that ICE gets out of their communities and that Congress not give them another penny. I believe the American people deserves leaders who are as brave as they are, who will wake up every morning ready to fight like hell. This year, we can flip Congress against Trump and against this rigged status quo, but we can't do it by electing more of the same. The Democratic Party is at a crossroads. On one side are millions of working people demanding bold action, lower costs, higher wages, Medicare for all. On the other side are corporate donors and consultants who are terrified of upsetting the very interests that rigged this economy in the first place. That tension shows up in watered-down bills and speeches that sound bold but govern small. You can't promise relief while protecting corporations driving up the prices. You can't stand with labor while taking checks from the union-busting CEOs. And you cannot defeat MAGA while keeping billionaires comfortable. In other words, you can't serve two masters. That's why the Working Families Party exists, to help us bring bolder people into government who better reflect the vision of working people. Look at Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, a daughter of Guatemalan immigrants in Chicago who expanded Medicaid, built affordable housing, and protected people from eviction as a state legislator before bringing that same fight to Congress. Or Congresswoman Latifah Simon, who worked for more than 30 years helping survivors of violence and trafficking. Now she's here in Congress to push for affordable housing and transit that connects people and that helps them get to work, and for an economy that doesn't treat Black and brown communities as disposable. Look at New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who took on Andrew Cuomo and his corporate backers and won. He led a movement of renters, young people, and working families who had been told their voices did not matter. He proved that when you show up, when you speak clearly about how to meet people's basic needs, the people respond. And now look at New Jersey's newest Democratic nominee, Ana Lilia Mejia. She started her race at 5%. She was outspent 10-1, and she still won because she outworked party bosses and billionaires. And as a former director of the New Jersey Working Families Party, she had a record of delivering, raising the minimum wage, guaranteeing paid sick days, and defending voting rights. And there is more of this to come. Our democracy does not work when big money owns politicians. Americans are sick of a corrupt elite few causing all this harm. And that's why I introduced a bill to abolish the super PACs they use to control our country. The obscenely rich shouldn't be able to call the shots in our democracy, and they shouldn't be able to escape accountability. That's also why I moved to subpoena the DOJ to release the full, unredacted Epstein files back in July. I know what it feels like to be targeted by billionaires, to face attack ads and smear campaigns meant to silence you. It was demoralizing and exhausting. It was also a waste of their money because our movement won, and we have to keep winning. Because when we have progressives in Congress, we get legislation that meets the moment. We get people who fight for accountability and justice. We get opportunities to do the right thing. So if you're sick of the corruption and the cruelty in this administration, if you're frustrated by Democrats who speak boldly but deliver cautiously, or sometimes even vote with MAGA, then believe that change can and will happen if we build political power together. That's what we're doing at the Working Families Party. Join us. Let me end with this. Trump is trying to steal everything that isn't nailed down for himself and his obscenely wealthy friends. But this level of thievery requires consent. It requires silence, exhaustion, resignation, but we do not have to consent. Our organized labor and our organized money are far more powerful than they want us to believe. So join us. We can reject authoritarianism. We can reject corporate power. We can get money out of politics. We can choose a different path, one where we have each other's backs, because working people are the majority. And when we come together and fight, we win. Thank you and good night.
I want to thank everybody for watching the MeidasTouch People State of the Union this evening, along with Move On. I want to give a special thanks to Katie Fang and Joy Reid and everybody who worked on the event. I want to give a shout out to all of the members of Congress, the senators, the members of the House of Representatives, their guests, everybody who was in attendance at that event. I want to give a shout out to the Working Families Party. What an incredible speech that was right there. I want to give a shout out to the governor of Virginia, Spanberger, for an incredible speech as well. I want to give a special thanks to all of you, the Meidas Mighty, for making this possible. Over 2 million views already on the People's State of the Union. And when we were watching the People's State of the Union versus all of the digital channels from corporate news that were showing the actual State of the Union, the People's State of the Union stayed number one for essentially the entire evening. I just want you to think about that with all of the corporate news out there showing the State of the Union, the boycott, the counter programming, or I should say the real State of the Union, the People's State of the Union was number one. And to me, though, when we talk about numbers, I've said this earlier today as well, whether it's 6 million subscribers that the MeidasTouch Network now has, 9 billion views the MeidasTouch Network now has, 2 million views on the People's State of the Union, and that number is going to grow. I think it'll be closer to 3 to 5 million when all is said and done. The number is telling, but it's not what's really relevant. It's what do you do with those numbers? How do you harness the power of people power to get out the truth each and every day? It's the programming decisions that you make. Do you show a fascist performative mess that Donald Trump wanted people to see? Or do you use the power of the people, the podium, the microphone that you've been blessed to receive the way we have here at the MeidasTouch Network to highlight the people, what they are going through, what you are experiencing, uplifting your voice? You know, whenever I have Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders, he joins me frequently on the show and he says, you know, Ben, the most important issues are often the least discussed on corporate news or on the media in general. So we've made it our mission here at the MeidasTouch Network to use our cameras, to use our microphone, to tell those stories, to be your voice, to fight for you. And we know what you're going through because we listen, not just talk. Listen, and we hear you. We hear you that living in Trump's America is psychological torture. It's psychological warfare by this Epstein class. It's you living paycheck to paycheck, if you're lucky enough to get a paycheck, struggling to afford rent, can't afford a home. If you're lucky enough to have a home that may have been purchased a while ago, or if you have kids or grandkids who are living with you, their future is bleak and they can't move out. You're having your health care ripped away from you. There are ICE, Gestapo, Border Patrol, SS, paramilitary, patrolling the streets, torturing, terrorizing, and killing people here in the United States, throwing people into concentration camps. That's what's happening in the United States of America while this Epstein class continues to cover up this child sex trafficking ring in the Epstein files. That's what's taking place. It's why, you know, I'll do a recap of what happened in that State of the Union. If you watched earlier when I do the show, Ben on Breaking News, I pretty much did the speech in 2 minutes that I knew Trump was going to give, and I pretty much nailed every aspect of all the things he's going to say. He's demented. He's very predictable where he's going. But I'll do a recap of it to give it the context, though, and to fact check it in real time. But I'm not going to ever platform that. I'm not going to platform that. I'm going to platform the people. And we're going to platform diverse points of views as well from the people. Right? On the one hand, you hear from the governor of Virginia, Then you hear from the Working Families Party. Then you hear from all these different Democratic senators and members of Congress who brought different guests who shared their experiences with you. People who were Epstein survivors, government employees who are now facing the possibility of losing their homes and being unhoused. They shared stories of people who were attacked by ICE, people whose family members were killed in detention centers, concentration camps, immigrants who were arrested and detained for expressing viewpoints that the regime didn't like. And you got to hear from people from a broad cross-section about a snapshot of what's actually happening in this country. And to me, that's what being a media company or a news entity is all about. What you saw tonight. And that's why it did the numbers, right? It wasn't, there wasn't flash and dazzle and no, it was people explaining what they're experiencing in a relatable way that you all understood because you can relate to it. And let's be clear, under this Trump regime, the state of our union is in shambles under this Trump regime. The Constitution has been shredded. Our alliances have been broken. The country's being run by an actually demented person. Every day he's posting about hospital ships going to Greenland. That isn't true. He's posting racist photos of former President Obama and Michelle Obama with their faces photoshopped over apes. I mean, these are sickos. These are sickos in the Oval Office. But they're the Epstein cabal. Of course they're sickos. Like, it's not why is Donald Trump acting this way? Well, he's a felon. He's a felon. He should be in prison. He should be Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil. He's in prison for 27 years. They're insurrectionist president. President Yoon of South Korea is in prison for life. That's what's supposed to happen in a system that functions, where there's law, where there's actual law and order and accountability. In the UK, look at Peter Mandelson. Look at Andrew Mountbatten, former Prince Andrew, not a prince. Look at what's actually happening there. And our demented person in the Oval Office sues our own government for $10 billion, saying something about his taxes, and we have to pay him $10 billion. He says another $10 billion is going to the Board of Peace, some private account that he controls, and he's selling oil from Venezuela into Qatari bank accounts. Guy's selling meme coins that have crashed. The Melania coin crashed like 96%. The Trump meme coin crashed 92%. The insiders made $1 billion. Everybody else got screwed. He's selling Trump watches today. He set up a new Trump watch website. The guy's demented. There's nothing normal about that. So spare me. Spare me. Oh, the norms and traditions are that you show up. This is not normal times. Donald Trump has not acknowledged any norm or tradition or the existence of our Constitution or any of the amendments or any of the articles. No, I mean, when the Supreme Court rules against him and says his tariffs are unlawful, the predator that he is says that's a win, and they've blessed my ability to do more tariffs. Okay? So spare me. Oh, you're not better than he is by not showing up and by leading the boycott. You're not better. Dude, this cabal's covering up the Epstein sex trafficking. What are you talking about? Reading stories today from NPR about 50 missing pages that involve accusations by a minor against Donald Trump for sex assault that are in the Epstein files that are being covered up. 50 terabytes of documents are likely still missing. That's hundreds of millions of documents. And this demented idiot is like, I've been vindicated. I've been talking about, there's 38,000 references to you. Your name's mentioned more than Harry in the Harry Potter book. More than Jesus or God in the Bible is Donald Trump in the Epstein files. You've got Howard Lutnick. I'm not going to do the Howard Lutnick impression. I did it earlier, so sorry if you were hoping for a Lutnick impression. But bringing his children to Pedo Island with other children after he said in 2005 he never ever saw Epstein again because he was so disgusted about this one interaction. He would never do anything with Epstein. I mean, again, these are sicko people. So spare me the, the norms, the traditions. Just stop it. Stop it. And let's just fight for the people. And I think one of the revelations that's happening right now, and what I think people are waking up to, is that the partisan framing of things is just meant to divide us. And that a lot of these issues, whether it's data centers, whether it's AI, whether it's ensuring that people get paid for their jobs with dignity, whether it's issues like healthcare, whether it's calling out the Epstein class and calling out their cover-up of the sex trafficking ring, whether it's standing for survivors, right? Whether it's wanting to hold lawmakers accountable for their stock trading. There's so many issues that are actually 80-20 issues. Common sense gun reform, 90-10 issues. And it is these right-wing oligarchs who are creating these fictions to try to divide and to prey. Because they're a predator class. So with that, Trump is babbling, Democrats are winning, overperforming by 37 points in tonight's Pennsylvania House special election right here as well. Just look at the results. People get it. People see what's happening right now. People get it. So I want to again thank everybody for tuning in to the People's State of the Union, for the Democratic rebuttal, to the Working Family Party rebuttal. Those are great. And let other people know about MeidasTouch Network. Let them know. Again, thank you to Katie Fang. Thank you to Joy Reid. Thank you for all of the people who worked at every and any level on this. Our editors, our workers here at the MeidasTouch Network, the team at Move On, the Congress members, their staff, the senators, their staff, the guests, their family. A lot of people put in a lot of effort on this night. And then most importantly, or equally importantly, is all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do each and every day. Our institutions may have fallen. People who we looked up to and respected may have betrayed us, right? Silence is complicity, and people who we wanted to step up didn't, or outright became Trump sycophants. We all remember them going to Mar-a-Lago in those early days and trying to sell us all that. We all remember that. But the people were resilient. The people stood our ground. We never gave up together. We, you, this whole community. People said, not here, not now, not in the United States of America. Not going to happen. Not now, not ever. And so what we saw tonight, to me, just goes to show you the momentum is real. The momentum is real. The haters, they're nervous right now. They were thinking, no one's going to watch this. Well, who's gonna care about that? Well, that's what we've been hearing at the MeidasTouch Network for about 6 years now. Head down, keep on working together in solidarity for our democracy. We got this. Thank you, everybody, on this historic evening. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
Sing our song. the good fight and set the record straight. There's no two sides to treason. There's no two sides to hate. We will look for the silver lining in the darkest clouds. But remember, truth is golden. So come on and sing it loud. The Meidas mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever they go wrong. The Meidas mighty standing strong. The radicals won't